all those who are here for the first time. We thank you for all the new listeners over the internet. Lord God, let the word come forth. Let it abide in us. Let it remain, and let it produce much fruit. We ask it in the name of Jesus. Amen. On this past Thursday, on our Bible study, I did announce what was our message today. It's going to be found in John chapter 15, and we're going to begin on verse 1. John chapter 15, verse 1. And it reads, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If a man remains in me and I in him, he will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. I have a few fruit trees in my yard. I have some grapes, and I have some Russian mulberries, and I have some peaches. I had an apple tree, but a storm blew that over. And during the season of producing fruit, I go to the tree quite often. You know, I'm one of those anxious ones. You know, is it ready yet? Is it ripe? Can I try? And I've been bold enough to pull it before time and bite into it and then realize it's not ready yet. But with all my going to the tree, I've always noticed that the trees aren't making any sounds. I've never gone to the tree and the tree is trying to produce fruit. What would you do if you went to the tree? You have a fruit tree. How many of you have been to a fruit tree before? What would you do if you get to that tree, and when you get close to the tree, you hear the tree doing I know if you're like me, you're going to run away. You're not going to stay around that tree because that tree's possessed. Because the tree doesn't try to make fruit. The tree just does. But we make it so difficult when we talk about spiritual fruit. We make it as if we have to strain it out. If you strain something out, nobody wants it. I don't have to go very grafted. We all understand what I'm talking about. Nobody wants when we have to strain something out. So there's certain characteristics that we need to have. First of all, is this, as it was in verse 5, I am the vine, you are the branches. We get mixed up of what is our role. Sometimes we think we are the vines. We're trying to make it happen. I've been around people that something is not for them at the time, but they really want it. You ever really wanted something? It is amazing. I got my first credit card. And I got my first credit card when I was 18 years old. I was a sergeant in the U.S. Army. It had a $10,000 credit limit. I had never had a credit card before. I never had $10,000 before. You know, I just finished high school and got in the Army, got promoted quickly, and here I am. I got $10,000 in my hand. Wow, who in the world ever decided I was ready for $10,000? You know what I did? I looked at my credit card and I said, I have you for emergencies and emergencies only. It was surprising how many emergencies I had every day. You know, I go to the mall and I have to have that shirt. It's an emergency. I have to have a new radio for my car. It's an emergency. You know, my tires are not looking very hot. It's an emergency. It took me 3 months to max that credit card. You know why I could spend that $10,000? Because it was on the vine. And my card was the branches. See, I didn't have to strain to spend it. I had to strain to pay it back. Are you following? See, to grow in God, all I have to do is remain in God. That's all I have to do. But see, we're a living sacrifice. That's what the Bible calls us. We're a living sacrifice. We don't know what it is to have a sacrifice in church because it's not our culture. It is in the Jewish culture and the culture of the Muslim people. They understand sacrifices. We call nonsense sacrifice. I'm sacrificing to go eat at McDonald's. No, you're not. How are you going to sacrifice to eat at McDonald's? You're taking from something to give into something else. That's not a sacrifice. You know what a sacrifice is? Give the person that don't have any money the money you're going to spend at McDonald's, and it's your last money. Then that's a sacrifice. You get nothing out of that. But in the Bible, sacrifices were like this. You will go to the temple, and sometimes you would have to walk for days to go to the temple, and you're not going to come empty-handed. And they had some crazy laws in the Old Testament about sacrifices. Some of them sounded like this. On the fourth year, you harvest your field, you will bring the whole fruit, all of it, to God. Does that sound like a sacrifice to you? Could you imagine looking at your orchard and, oh man, it's the fourth year. Look how nice those fruits look. Oh, I can bite into. I can't. All of it belongs to God. Oh man, I got to wait till next year. See, that's a sacrifice. Bringing an animal to get killed at church. Could you imagine if we did that today? Could you imagine? Where's your sheep? You're poor. Where's your dove? You're rich. Where's your bull? And you sat there and watched the priest with a knife cut underneath the neck, get a little bucket to grab the blood as it's spewing out, then take the blood up to the altar and put some hyssop in it and begin to sprinkle the blood all over the place. And you're like, what are they doing? They're doing a sacrifice. Why is it called a sacrifice? Because they killed the animal? No. It's called a sacrifice because the person that brought it had to pay for it. It wasn't cheap. There was a certain amount that they had to bring depending on the flock. The first one to come out of the womb belonged to God. You look at the sheep. Oh, she's pregnant. Oh, goodness, it's the first one. I can't eat that sheep. That belongs to God. So because we're a living sacrifice, it makes it hard. The animal had no choice but to sit there and be burnt when it was a burnt offering. You know why it sat there? It was dead. It couldn't feel anything. Now, when I was younger, I went to my first funeral. I had never seen a dead body before. And I went to the funeral. It was a young guy that got shot in the head. He was around my age. And I looked at the kid, and I'm like, he didn't look anything like he did when he was alive. Because he got shot in his head, so the head swelled up and everything. And I sat there and I poked the guy. Because, people who are dead don't look dead. They don't. They look asleep. So, I want to make sure he was dead. And I poked him. Then poked him. And I looked around to make sure no one was looking. When I noticed no one was looking, I shook him. I want to make sure if you're dead, you're dead. You're not going to move. You're going to stay dead. A sacrifice that's dead doesn't move. But a sacrifice that's alive does. You can decide to get off that bench. And you'll end up having to repeat the whole process all over again. I worked as a school teacher in the United States. And I had some fifth graders who were delayed. And this was at a private school, and the parents came up to me, the mom said, listen, I'm paying good money for the school. So you're going to pass my kids. They're not going to stay in the fifth grade. They're going to go to the sixth grade. And I looked at the mom, I said, yes, ma'am, I'll pass your kids. I did. But you had to read the fine print. I'm passing these kids to the next grade, but they have not accomplished their requirements. So by the time they got to the 12th grade, you know what they'll do with those kids? They'll get a certificate of attendance. You went to school all the way to 12th grade. That's nice. You don't graduate. You didn't pass. You were just passed on. In God, there's no such thing. God is not going to give us a certificate of attendance. In my country, in the Republic of Panama, if you fail the third grade, you repeat the third grade. If you fail the third grade again, you repeat the third grade again. If you fail the third grade again, you repeat the third grade again. If you failed again, you repeat the third grade again. Now, they have been people 19 and 20 years old in fifth grade. And I'm not exaggerating. They didn't pass, so they remained. Well, that's what happens in God. I've been saved for 50 years. You're a second grader. You haven't passed the second grade. You know why we get stuck? Because we start whining and complaining. And people feel like they need to pity you. No, you don't. You know what a person is called when they're delayed? Just that. Delayed. With Annie, it's really interesting because Annie learns by books. Annie can listen to my message over and over. Give it to her in book form, and because of her language difficulty, you know, she has to hear what I said and she has to interpret what I'm saying so she can understand it. So sometimes I'm going a little too fast. But if I write it down and give it to her, she can take her time and interpret it, and she'll get it. So sometimes I'll preach something and she won't get it, and she'll go buy a book. And then she'll come to my house, Bishop, I got it. But you know what I'm grateful about, Annie? She keeps at it until she gets it. She don't quit and say, oh man, I'm never going to master this English. Goodness gracious. She's come up to me, she says that sometimes you just got to say, you know, short phrases. You say it too long and I get confused. You got to say short phrases so I can get a little nuggets. You know, sometimes I'm looking at folks and I'm like, why aren't you getting it? I'm preaching very simple. I'm not doing anything complicated. You want to act like a real Christian? Stay connected to the vine. You are not the vine. It is not your job to pull the minerals out of the ground. Your job is to sit there. Wait. Oh, no, I didn't say that because we don't like that. We are Americans. We don't wait. You ever gone to the drive-thru and they're taking too long? You notice you get an attitude? Everybody here gets an attitude at drive-thru. Because we say, you know, it's an oxymoron. It's drive-thru, not drive-wait. You're taking too long. I mean, I've looked at people inside a restaurant and, do you need me to butcher the cow? Because, you know, I'm like, come on, I've been sitting out here. We don't like to wait. So when God makes us wait, we get mad. How many here have been mad at God for waiting? Here's the good thing about waiting. See, when I was in the Army, I learned this concept I have never heard of before in my whole entire life. This concept is this one. Hurry up and wait. They'll wake you up early in the morning. It's 3 a.m. Get down in formation, stand in formation, and here you come with an inspection, and they're inspecting you from top to bottom, and then they start making you run, and you run to where you're supposed to go, and then they make you stop, and you sit there and you wait, and they leave you, and you're stuck in formation, and it's now 4 a.m, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 o'clock, they come to get you so you can go eat lunch. Then they bring you back. 1, 2, 3. At 5 o'clock, they call you in. Why did you just bring us out here to waste the whole day? Why? This doesn't make any sense. You knew they weren't going to see us till 5 o'clock. Why didn't you bring us at 4:30? You know why? It taught us to wait. Waiting is the best thing you could ever do. You don't want to get things before your time. It can kill you. Do you know in the United States, if you become a millionaire, if you win the lottery and become a millionaire, right here in the United States of America, within 7 years, you're going to owe twice as much. 97% of the people owe twice as much within 7 years. They became millionaires and they got something that they never had before. $1 million credit. All of a sudden the banks are here. You can borrow money because you got $1 million. So they start spending money that's not theirs. They borrowed it. And they go, well, yeah, I got $1 million in the bank. Until when they have to start paying back. You know why they're in debt 97%? Could you imagine being $2 million in debt? I can't even fathom that. How can you sleep knowing I owe $2 million? I mean, people get killed for less. $2 million is a lot of money. Well, why? You know why? They weren't ready to be a millionaire. Turn around and give the same $1 million to a millionaire and see what he's going to do. He already know how to use the money. He can tell you, listen, in 7 years, I'll give you $3 million for the $1 million you gave me. I'm going to invest that money, and I'll give you more. But when you're not ready for something, it can kill you. There are people who have won the lottery, and 3, 4, 5 years later commit suicide. They weren't ready for that. We need to learn to wait. When we had a bigger church, we had a lot of college students, and they would start to date. And I looked at them and I said, you're going too fast. Oh, we know what we're doing. Okay. But, you know, there is a law. It's a natural law. It says every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Run into that wall at 50 miles an hour, the wall's going to hit you at 50 miles an hour. You need to slow down. Slow down. And when you're dating, you're on best behavior. You want to know how to knock off best behavior? Since you're young and you're still in that age, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to teach you a lesson that takes a lifetime. This is how you knock off the best behavior. Take the date that you're with to their own family and watch them interact. Watch how he treats mama and daddy and his siblings. Family reunion are great. Go see him in a family reunion. Like, yeah, I know who you are now, buddy. Because, you know, you can fake around me, but they know you. You can't fake around them. They're going to be looking at you like, what's wrong with you? Why you acting like that? Why you dressed like that? Yeah, you got to listen to those comments. What are you wearing? You with her. Oh. That's automatic. He don't dress like this. Well, you smelling good. He don't normally smell like that. You get to see what the real person is like. Well, see, in life, you got to become real with your relationship with God. You can't fake it. You can't sit there and come in on Sunday, I'm very religious, I'm very pious, I'm very holy. Because you got people like me who are prophets that just look right through you. You know why people love big churches? They can hide. We started in a big church. They had 3,000 members in the church. And I was the bold one. I'll sit there in the congregation. I was one of the ministers on staff, and I sit there in the congregation, and sometimes the Holy Spirit would tell me, I need you to go speak to so-and-so in the middle of service. And, you know, they let me. They didn't stop me. And I'll get up, and I'll go to so-and-so, and I'll tell them what God said. And, boy, I've had some people who, you know, they were really pale. That turned so red. Like, how do you know who told you? God did. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to know. We had some teenagers that my wife and I, we went to a family reunion in California. And while we were at family reunion, God interrupted our family reunion and showed me something they were doing. And I came back and told them after service, I need to see both of you in my office. And they came to my office, and I said, Thursday, 7:42 at nighttime, in your house, both of you were together in your room. And how did you know? I said, because God had let me see the junk. I didn't want to see it. You should have seen our last year, since we had a lot of younger kids. They'll come up to the altar every Sunday before service, get on their knees, God, please don't let Pastor see it. See, we got to be real. If you mess up, hey, get up, ask for forgiveness, keep on trucking. Keep on trucking. All of us have something called our bleeding issues. We've heard of the woman with the issue of blood, right? She had a bleeding issue. We all have bleeding issues. Every single one of us have issues that, we feel embarrassed to even have to bring up. But if you stay connected to the vine, you're going to produce fruit. If you disconnect yourself from the vine, then we're going to have the problem that we're going to find in the book of Luke. So turn with me quickly to Luke, chapter 13. Verse 6. Then he told this parable. A man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he went to look for fruit on it, but did not find any. So he said to the man who took care of the vineyard, "For 3 years now I've been coming to look for fruit on this fig tree, and haven't found any. Cut it down. Why should it use up the soil?" Now, if you've ever owned a tree, you don't want a tree that's supposed to produce fruit just for its flowers. There's some fruit trees that have beautiful flowers, but I want some fruit. I bought it for the purpose of it producing fruit. I didn't buy it for its pretty flowers. Now, there are flowering trees that you buy just for the flowers, but I don't know anyone who buys a fruit tree for its flowers. He buys fruit trees for its fruit. So if God is going to go to a tree, and he's been going to the tree for 3 years, and in those 3 years he has not found any fruit, and he were to say, cut it down, it's sucking up all the minerals from the soil. It is a waste. What will we feel if we get before God and he said, well, God, I kind of ended my life early. Why didn't you were sucking up the soil. You were a waste. You're supposed to have fruit. I'm so glad that God is a God of second chances, because many times I should have been cut up. You know what wood is good for when it produces no fruit? Anybody here knows? What is wood good for? Firewood. It's good to burn. It produces heat. So it's good for something. But notice how long the heat lasts. It don't even produce heat for very long. But God is a God of second chances. You look at verse 8. Sir, the man replied, leave it alone for 1 more year, and I'll dig around it and fertilize it. If it bears fruit next year, fine. If not, then cut it down. The whole reason that Jesus came, lived on earth without sin, gave his life for us as a ransom, was resurrected on the 3rd day, now sits in the right hand of God, was for us to have fruit. See, many people feel I got saved, that's good enough. No, it's not. He did not die for you to be just on the vine. He died for you to have fruit. Many in our country feel it's just okay to be on the vine. I'm saved. It's good enough. No, it's not. The Bible does not teach that being connected to a vine is good enough. We would die of hunger if the fruit trees had no fruit. The world is dying of hunger because they're not getting nourishment from those who said they were saved, from those who are grafted to the vine. Let's go back to John. Verse 8, chapter 15, verse 8. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourself to be my disciples. This is for his glory. It's not for your glory. I've seen a lot of people. I've been an artist most of my life, 29 years in the music industry. In 29 years, I know what it is to get a lot of accolades and a lot of pomp from people. I've had the ability to perform for 2 presidents of the United States. I've had the ability of performing at Carnegie Hall. I mean, lots of beautiful accolades, and I know what it is to get glory. But there's one thing of me getting glory and something else, God getting glory. I'm supposed to bring glory to God, not glory to myself. If I'm producing fruit so I can win an award of having the biggest fruit, I got my glory. I'm not getting anything else. We have some Christians that's their whole goal. Let me produce the big one so I can get the Blue Ribbon Award. Biggest pumpkin. Biggest watermelon. That is your reward. You know, I don't know a lot about planning certain things, so I thank God he has given me Pastor Chris, who is a lot more knowledgeable in certain areas than me. And we were looking at the big pumpkin seeds. You ever gone to Lowe's and seen those little packs, the giant pumpkin seeds? And he was looking at me, he says, you know, you don't really need that. Any pumpkin seed could make giant pumpkins. Really? How do you do it? Oh, very simple. You go through the vine, and when it's producing its fruit, you take off some of them. You prematurely remove its fruit, and you allow that vine to work on one fruit. Oh, please stay with me, because this is very important. You have some ministries that they're focusing on one fruit, but the fruit will never be eaten. It will never nourish anybody. It'll get awards, but that is it. It'll get this picture taken. The nourishments were all those little other ones that were removed. In our lives, let's not focus on one. Let's focus on just bearing whatever God has for us to bear. Some fruit may just fall off before it's time. It's okay. I have a strange tree. This tree, I have to prop it over with some rope tied to another tree. The reason I have to tie it to the other tree is because it gets so full of fruit that when it gets really heavy, it starts to lean. And it would lean so much that you have branches touching the ground. And every fruit that touches the ground, the ants eat. So, you know, we can't eat it. So I gotta bend it back up, and I gotta tie it up to something else to hold it up. See, sometimes we are starting to bend, and we're bending the wrong direction. And it requires God to bend us back. Yes, we are bearing fruit, but we can't bear the weight of the fruit. So we have to learn to let God bend us. Do you know a great revival happened in the 1700s by that one phrase? A guy began to pray in Scotland. This was his prayer. God, bend us. That's all he prayed. He traveled throughout the whole Scotland, and everywhere he went, he said, God, bend us. And people began to pray the same thing. Yes, God, bend us. Bend us. And boy, the power of God moved throughout Scotland. There was such a great move of God in that era. Notice what that word is. Bend. You don't get your way when you're bended. God gets his way because God knows the direction that we should be bending to. Our fruit may be so heavy, we want to go the other direction, and we can fight God. And many of us who are saved, we do. We sit there and we look at our own self-righteousness, and this is what I am, this is what I'm producing, this is what I'm doing. You know, our ministry is a great ministry, and what do you mean I need to turn the other way? Well, God knows that some of your fruit are being wasted. Let him bend you back. Let him bend you towards the way he wants to. It's not a lot of effort from us to remain. It's not. Anyone that tells you it's hard to be a Christian is lying. Because it's very easy to be a Christian. This is all it takes to be a Christian. Honesty. Honesty. Being honest with your relationship with God. That's all it takes to be a good Christian. Because if you are honest, you're not trying to pretend. You're not going to, I'm holy. Honest people, listen, I got some work. I'm not trying to make you feel like I'm it. I have people come up to me and especially when I'm traveling to other countries. You must pray all day long for God to use you like that. No, honey, I don't. I don't. God used me like that because of his grace, not because I did anything. That I am just a man like any other man. See, that's honest. You know what God is saying in heaven when I'm being honest? Oh, I'm going to keep on using you. I'm going to keep on using because I'm giving him the glory. I'm not getting the glory. We've seen some miracles that you would think, I'm a guru. You would really think so. And I said, no. You must study the Bible every moment you get. No, I wish. I got other stuff I have to do. I wish I can read my Bible all day long. I wish. I can't. You must have the whole Bible memorized from Genesis. No, I don't. I got a few verses. See, if we are honest with our relationship with God, then everybody around us will know how to treat you. They won't have to be fake. They don't have to be fake. Annie's not fake around me. She's not. Tristan's not fake around me. Lisa's not. My wife certainly is not fake around me. No, because they know I'm going to be real. If I have an issue with somebody, you're going to watch me work it through. If I went to somebody and felt uncomfortable because I didn't want to be around them, I'm going to go to my car. God, what's wrong with me? God, I shouldn't be feeling this way. What is wrong with me? I need to learn to change. What do you want me to do? Go talk to them. Excuse me. I'll be right back. What are you doing? I'm going to do what God told me to do. Hello? I felt uncomfortable around you. Please forgive me. It is my own dumbness and ignorance. I am still growing. I will produce good fruit, and I will have fruit that will remain. Honesty will give you a great relationship. When you're having a hard time with God, we all have our hard time with God issues. When we sit there and, why God? Why did you do this? Why? I've had those honest moments with God. God, I'm mad at you. God, I know you didn't do it, but I know you had the power to be able to not do it. And because of that, I'm kind of mad at you right now. Give me a moment. Please don't tell me off yet. Let me be able to work it through my system, and then let me come back to you. See, I'm being honest. Some of us, we do the opposite. We turn from God, I'm mad at you, and pretend we're still okay with him. To everybody else, oh yeah, I'm having a great relationship with God. Yes, I am. I'm not the best I've ever been all my whole entire life. We're close, we're tight. Stop lying. When you have a fight with your wife, why are you trying to pretend you're not having a fight with your wife? I mean, it's very easy. My wife will come to work here at the daycare. Lisa works with her. She'll walk in and, my husband's mad at me today. That's it. Nothing else. Why? I don't know. He'll be okay, though. See, she's not trying to act fake. When I walk in, Lisa just give me that look. Mm-hmm. Look at Lisa. What? Go up to my wife and, honey, I'm better now. What would you mad at me for? It's just one of those moods. I'm better now. I'm okay. See, there was no pretending. With honesty, you can be a Christian, a good one. You can walk around and listen, my relationship with God is not very hot right now. Pray for me. Honesty. Why do we put up all the fakeness? Why? It doesn't produce anything. Stop and think about it. You're a parent. You have kids. Your kids pretend they love you in front of you. Behind your back, they're talking about you like a dog. Do those kids really love you? No. They don't really love you. Because if they did, they'll be honest to you. Now, Mommy, I don't like when you call me that. It hurt my feelings. Mommy can be honest. Well, get over it. That's honest. You know, a child that's brought up with honesty, he can be in the worst situation and end up being a good child. Don't look at me like that. I was born in a third world country. I had 2 siblings that died of hunger. I'm okay. I know what it is to live in a rough situation. I know what it is to be bloated. And then if you look at the Ethiopians, I know what that looks like, and I know what it feels like. I know the pangs of hunger. I know what that feels like. I'm okay. Don't feel sorry for me. I'm stronger. I'm stronger than most people I know because I had to learn to endure things when I was little. It didn't kill me. It made me stronger. But my parents were honest. Mommy, I'm hungry. Sorry, honey. We have no food. Maybe we'll have food tomorrow. Let's be connected to the vine and be honest. Let's make it a daily ritual that we can be honest with God at the beginning of every day. You know, there are times that I get to my bed at nighttime and I'm so tired. And I feel like, I need to read my Bible. I need to spend some time with God. But I'm so tired. I said, God, I'm tired. I'll see you in the morning. Good night. See, I'm not trying to pretend with God. Because God, sometimes it's useless to read the Bible if you're tired. You're just reading. Your brain is not engaged. It just become an action that was fruitless. We need to start doing things. It is a shame to think that in the 1970s, the United States were the ones who were sending the most missionaries throughout the whole world. 60s and 70s. During the sexual revolution, we were sending out the most missionaries. Now the most missionaries are sent here. Why is it that in our culture we've learned to be so fake? Why is it that we can be a non-Christian from Monday through Saturday, but Sunday we got to pretend? Why is it? I led someone to Christ, and when probably my first year of being a minister, and he had a really foul mouth. I mean, every other word he said was a curse word. And I led him to Christ. And I was like, man, he that winneth souls is wise. Thank God I won one to the Lord. You winneth souls wise. So we were started to pray before we left this house, and I said, would you pray? Since you're a Christian now, you have open communication with God. And he began to pray, and he would say, the mother father word, and the F word, and the SH word, and he's praying. And he's saying all this stuff to God, and I was a new minister, and I'm like, God, let me stand awake so when you strike him dead, I am not nowhere close to him. I mean, goodness, God, please, I don't even want to smell him when he's burnt. I'm just going to stand to the side because I know this heathen going to be burned any moment. How could you speak to God with those words? And I went into my car after he was not struck by lightning. I had a moment with God. God, what in the world? You let that man talk to you like that. Why didn't you respond? I didn't even hear thunder. You should at least thundered. You did nothing. And God said, I accepted his prayer. Huh? Run that by me again. You did what? I accepted his prayer. God, did you not hear those words he used? He said, I judge the heart. I have not worked that out of him yet. I accepted his prayer. But you are not allowed to speak to me like that. Do you see? God was teaching me he was now connected to the vine. But being connected to the vine, certain things are going to end up falling off of him. Because the Bible does teach us that God prunes those branches that do not produce anything. God cuts them off. So I just had to wait for him to just stay on the vine. And being connected to the vine, eventually God's going to come and say, whoop, that one's not producing. Whoop, that one's not producing. Whoop. Do you know if you want to have lots of grapes, you got to really prune that vine? You got to sit there. No. What are you doing? I'm keeping the vine. I'm cutting off all the branches. But don't the fruit grow on the branches? Yeah. It'll grow new branches. God can do that to you too, to where all that remains is the vine. And you feel like you're totally unable to produce anything. Just stay connected. New vines, new branches will pop out. And on those new branches, you'll be able to have bigger fruit. But cutting hurts. Don't be mistaken. The tree feels when you cut. The branch feels when you cut. They have something very similar to our human body. Theirs is called sap. It's how they bleed. See, when God begins to prune you, it hurts